Boom, we are live. We're recording. Ricky, what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Yeah, dude, it's been a minute, man. How you been?
Doing good, man. Working hard, and God is good.
Yeah, 100%, dude, 100%. And yeah, I know that you've been on repeat times. And I think the world of real estate knows, who you are. But for those that maybe don't, that aren't familiar with you, can you just give a, I don't know, minute, 2 minute quick background on what your career's been like and what you're up to today?
Yeah, no doubt, man. So, as Josh said, you guys know who I am, but 20 years in the business this year. So it's been a really wild ride. It's been an incredible ride. It's been an incredible journey. I started out roofing houses with my dad and got in real estate when I was 20, made $1 million really fast, lost it all in the crash, went back to roofing, worked on an oil rig for a year, read 100 books and literally just, and speaking of books, have you ever read Outliers?
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell.
Dude, yeah, that really opened my eyes up to some stuff. And you start to relate to your own story, because he tells all the different stories in there. And I started to think about how I was born in 1981, right? It got me in real estate when I was 20 in 2000, where I was able to get experience in the market before it crashed, right? All that stuff was super valuable. And then going through the crash and learning all the lessons through there, actually coming back in the business in 2008 and selling foreclosures to buyers and working my way back up. It was all because I had the opportunity to go through that. There were guys that were 50, 60 years old going through the same stuff, losing everything right there next to me. And I just feel so fortunate. I felt fortunate back then, but that book really made me kind of look at it a little differently where, man, how fortunate I was to go through that in my mid 20s and learn all those lessons that a lot of guys learn in their 40s and 50s. And then come back and build this empire, man. I got up to where I was selling 100 properties, 2014, #1 Remax agent in Alabama. And so I've just been clipping along at 100 deals as a single agent. In 2017, I wrote 2 books and started coaching for free. And so that's been pretty incredible. We've had 50,000 agents go through the program. And we did a survey back in January. And what we found was that 7 out of 10 say they get more listings, close more deals. 87% have better time management. We had 75% say they read more and 98.8% say they enjoy being a real estate agent more, which was the stat I was the most proud of, because when you look at it like that, then what you realize is that Zero to Diamond is helping agents manage their time better, right? And, just become that better version of themselves, which is allowing them to, achieve more in less time, be more efficient, and have time to spend with their family. Right, where they're actually enjoying their life more. I think a lot of agents got in the business to have that freedom of being their own boss, making their own money, doing their own thing. And I think the business ends up running them, right? Where it's kind of controlling their hours and they jump every time the phone rings and stuff like that, work until 11 o'clock at night. And they don't have the freedom they thought they were going to have. And so that's part of what I do, is try to help give that freedom back by introducing a different mindset and a different perspective, that they can actually, take control of the situation and produce more in less time and spend that extra time with their family or whatever it is they want to do. So that's been an incredible journey. And then here lately, I got to the point where, honestly, the other businesses outside of real estate are making more money. You were probably in these same shoes long ago. And that's why you did what I'm starting to do now, which is build a team to handle residential so that I can go out and I'm dabbling in commercial. And I'm loving that little journey. I've got a mentor on that side. I've got a mentor on helping me build the team structure and just right, really incredible stuff. And this year is like a new year. Like every year I say, this is the year I'm setting my foundation so I can crush it next year, every year. So kind of the same here, but just I'm still in it deep and grinding in the trenches every day and just, helping as many agents as I can, selling as many properties as I can. And it's getting fun. It's getting more and more fun.
Yeah, I love that, dude. And then, so we're talking about freedom, because I know you're building your team now and you have other businesses that kind of subsidize income from your real estate business. So, but you were a guy that found freedom even while going out there and personally selling 100 plus homes a year. And there's an element of balance that comes to that. But And I've been able to find it in a different way of, I started a team 16 years ago, but to be honest, as an individual agent, before I started my team, until my team got to a certain capacity, dude, I was grinding 7 days a week, 80, or 7 days a week, 80 hours a week. It was just go, 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 go. So I'm curious, because right now in this market, dude, I mean, this is the most, at least in my career, most challenging market for most, to go out there and when your average buyer, let's just say you average, show them 5 homes right now, offer get accepted. In my market right now, it's taking 20. And so balance is even less to come by now today. What are some, top tips that you have of how you were able to achieve that those, if they feel like they're just that fucking, hamster on the wheel, dude, right now?
Dude, honestly, I mean, I kind of hate to say this, but it is so tough right now. I mean, we've got an influx of so many agents since the pandemic. And, from what I can tell, the actual viable agents that are actually doing something out there is probably 400,000 when we have 1.6 million and probably another million or so that aren't part of NAR. It's crazy because a lot of it is the supply demand, the market, the lack of inventory, the fact that, I mean, sellers can't find anywhere to sell. A lot of them now, you got rising interest rates. They don't want to leave their nice little interest rate they have. So this is all, I think, going to get worse. I don't think this inventory problem is going to get much better anytime soon. So we got to learn how to navigate this a little better and kind of put a different spin on what we're doing. It's we're in this new world that's going to be here for a second. So, I've always, my big thing coming up was, and listen, when I came up, there were no dialers, there was no social media, I mean, there was very little technology compared to what it is today. You couldn't really, in today's world, you can do things so much faster. Communication as at all-time highs. I was actually, looking up phone numbers all night, and then we'll wake up the next day to call them all by hand and then write about 20 handwritten letters. That was my daily routine. I would work till about 11 o'clock at night, looking up numbers, call them all in the morning by hand. And then by 3 o'clock or so, I would do some handwritten letters and mess around with a few other things. And so there were, man, plenty of years where I was working that, I was living that seven day a week grind life where I'm working from, 8 to 11 at night. But in today's world, man, like you can sit down and click a button, get the numbers, click another button, dial 100 in an hour. You can do all that stuff that it used to take me, 12 hours to do in a matter of an hour and a half. So I think one key thing that agents need to realize right now in this market, it's tougher. Yeah, inventory is tougher, but technology, if you got to realize that you're in the most incredible moment to be in this business, and it's only going to get better in terms of technology and how easier things are going to get moving forward. And the fact that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I just feel like, the debate of if agents are going to be around in 10, 20 years, I don't really hear that debate much anymore. I don't think there's a way that we're going to get inched out of this equation. So you're in this industry that is so secure. You got technology that's doing nothing but helping us. Zillow came along, made my life 10 times easier, because now I don't have to go out and search for properties, send my buyer a list, them decide what they want to see. They just call me and tell me what they want to see because they found it on Zillow, and it cut hours and hours out of my life work, searching for properties and stuff for buyers. So listen, number one tip is to use technology and realize, 5-10 years ago, we didn't have the things that we have today. So you can actually utilize technology to help save yourself time, buy time back that you can use elsewhere to crush it even further, and or spend more time with your family and stuff like that. My thing is I want to go out there and create 5 new friends a day with property owners in my market. I don't care how you do it. You can get Zillow leads. You can door knock. You can, cold call, expired, circle prospecting, Facebook, sphere of influence. I don't care how you do it. There's a big debate out there about, that this is dead and that's dead and you should do this. I don't care how you do it. It all works. You got to find what works best for you. Right. But what I do know is that I don't care what that method is. It's all going to come back to having a real conversation with that prospect, regardless of where that lead actually came from. right? And you better have some kind of system in place that's going to put you in touch with enough people that whatever your communication skill level is, produces 5 new friends a day with people in your market. Because if you do that for 5 years, you got 6,000 new friends in the market that should be getting some kind of branding mechanism on the back end where they never forget who you are. Dude, if you got 6,000 people in your market that love you, right, that you talk to, that gave you their data, whatever the case may be, you following up with a weekly email, or you're doing social media, you're doing direct mail, whatever it is you do, then you've got a massive business. I don't care what the inventory levels are. That's like me right now. You know, I built my base up to about 20,000 over the course of about 16, 17 years. And we're not worried about where our next deal is coming from, right? We're just, you know, we're working our base of people. Yeah, it's slimmer. Like back before all this happened, I would carry 20 to 30 listings at all times. Now I'm carrying like 3 to 5 listings at all times, right? So and we're doing less transactions. Like we're doing less transactions, but the prices are much higher, right? So as the prices shoot up like they have, it's put downward pressure on the commission rates, you know, because people don't want to pay as much because, you know, it ends up being a bigger number. Plus they know that things are selling in a day. And they figure, oh, they're not working as hard, not realizing that our work actually comes during the transaction, not really before the transaction. But, you know, as the market does shift in 3, 4, 5 years, like no time soon, we're going to see that reverse a little bit and come back up, you know, as that starts to change. But, you know, through the ebbs and flows of the market, at the end of the day, it all comes down to database, right? That's all it is. And so if you stop focusing on, you know, the listings and stuff. And I got a lot of agents right now that are really frustrated because they're putting in the time, they're putting in the work, they're making their calls, they're making their connections, they're making 5 new friends a day, they're doing the weekly emails, they're, you know, marketing and doing social media and doing all the stuff they need to do. And it's really just not happening for them. It's a tough time, especially for a brand new agent to get in there and squeeze themselves into the market right now, man. Like only the strong are going to survive this. And if you can make it right now, you can make it during any market.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more. And you know, I mean, one of the things, I mean, there's a lot of things that have allowed you to be so successful, but you know, from our years of knowing each other, I think one of the things that has greatly led to a lot of your success, not the only thing, but you know, one of them, one of many, is your perspective on things. You know, I love that you said, hey, 5 friends. Everybody else in this industry is looking at this as leads. And why I think that that's so powerful is you're focused on the human connection. And a scary thing that I see now today in our industry is so many agents they just want to automate everything. They're not focused on the human connection, building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, it's just, it's allowing them to become a commodity, you know? And you're not calling them leads, dude, you're calling them friends, you know, right? And you could gain friends in a lot of different ways. So I'm sure it also opens up perspective or opens up possibly for conversations and looking for ways of helping them real estate related or not, and so forth. You know, can you speak to that a little bit? Because the one downside of this technology increases versus like when, I know I'm aging us here, but when you and I got in the industry, dude, there was no scanners, there was no smartphones.
Right.
Like, dude, like we barely, you know, faxes.
There was barely MLS. Like the agents in my office were so incredibly thrilled because MLS had just came out when I came on the scene, and they were telling me about the books, right? There was the monthly advertising books, and that's literally what they used to see what was on the market when they had a buyer. They would look through those magazines that other agents in the area would advertise in, and all the agents would advertise in these books. That was just public books out there, but they would use, that was basically their MLS. And so like every stage of the technology, you know, the generation before, you know, like now I'm that generation where I'm saying, man, look, you guys got dialers, you got social media, you got all this stuff. It's crazy. But if you ask a buyer or seller at the end of a transaction and you say, hey, how'd you guys pick your agent? You know, the number one answer out there is that they had a friend in the business. Okay. So boom, there's your answer. Okay. Now we want to have as many closings as we can have. We reverse engineer ourselves into that situation and realize, well, we have to be viewed as a friend in the business for them, right? Which comes back to just making friends. So, you know, NAR did a study, and the number one reason why the prospects or clients, buyers or sellers choose a real estate agent was that they had a friend in the business with a great reputation. And it was 30-something percent, 36%, 39%. Every other reason, and there were like 20 other reasons, were all 1% or less, right? It wasn't online presence. It wasn't brokerage. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was that they had a friend in the business with a great reputation, right? So you really have to start thinking about, if you want a lot of listings, if you want a lot of deals, you have to start reverse engineering yourself into these situations and realize at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if this human in front of you in your market wants to buy or sell something today or not. I think that's what's so scary about a lot of the coaching and training out there, is that they're more geared towards just trying to close the deal today, whether they want to buy or sell today or not, when they're not listening to the client about what they want. Right? They may want to wait 6 months because of a legitimate reason, and the agent is trying to talk them into doing something today. Well, what if I could do this? Would you do that kind of stuff? And I just don't think that's the way to go. That's not the way you build massive business, because as soon as that prospect feels pressure, now you do want to apply pressure, but that's where the skill level comes in. Right? I say 95% low pressure, 5% high pressure. Know when those spots are to go in and ask for the business. And I'm all about going in there and closing the deal, but listen to them a little bit and really kind of fill out the situation and see what it is that they need, right? Because we're providing them a service. And so at the end of the day, man, it's all about how many friends I can make in the business, right? And then remarket to those friends, right? And then when they get ready, they think of me as that friend in the business, right? And that's how you build a massive business, right? That's thinking big, because when you do it my way, you're going to run into so many people that want to do deals today, right? And so when you do it like this, you're running into people who want to do deals in the future with you because they like you. And you got people that want to do business now because they like you, right? So you're building your business for now and the future all at the same time in one swoop motion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I've always loved about our industry, dude, is people already sold on the fact they want to buy or sell real estate. So I don't have to do any selling on making up their mind there. I've just got to convince them that I'm the best guide to help them from where they're at to where they want to go. And that is so much the human connection. I always say that the overall real estate game is get people to know you, like you, trust you, be aware of what you do for a living, fall frequently, your business grows. We overcomplicate this game, very heavily.
The best lead are the leads that don't want to do anything when you talk to them, that you make this great first impression and then remarket to them for a year until they do. They're totally sold on you at that point, right? They're not interviewing 3 agents. Like right now, my business is just automatic, man. When clients call me, I'm the only agent that they want to deal with. They're not interviewing 3 agents, and I didn't prospect for them. See, that's the other side of this. When you put in that, when you grind all those years and you build that database up to that 6,000, 10,000, whatever, you don't have to prospect anymore. You can turn that prospecting switch off. You're done, because when you build that database up to the level of income you want to make, and you turn that switch off, you're going to continue to make that same amount of income just off that database. That's why you see these agents who come in and they're hot and heavy and they do incredible and they build their business up to 150, and then they just make 150 every year. Boom, 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 150, 150. It's because they built their business and their database up to that 150. And then they kind of thought, well, I made it. So they turn that prospecting switch off and they're just living off their database and they're just maintaining that 150. And it's kind of it's a mirage, they're thinking, I'm going to break through sooner or later, because they are closing deals because they're doing 150. But you got to look at it from a third party. And when you stop building your database, whatever you're making at that time, that's what you're going to make every year. So if you're not to the level of income that you want to be at, you got to keep grinding and building that database up and creating those friendships and remarketing and continue building this machine. Because if you build it up to the certain point, then you want to make $1 million, build it up to $1 million, turn it off, kick back, remarket, take care of your people, and continue making that $1 million, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah. So in this market, dude, and I'm assuming everybody I talk to, there's been a couple people that I've spoken with in different parts of the country or different parts of Canada that are in, kind of those unicorn markets where the opposite's happening than everywhere else.
Yeah.
99.9% of everybody I'm talking to is severe low inventory, institutions swallowing up insane amounts.
Even in Australia, South Africa, I'm talking to those agents. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. So, how is your market currently? And what are some of the things that you've done to adjust? I know you mentioned, volume, and my volumes, my gross volume sales are way up. My gross commissions are way up. Unit number has been down. And last year we closed about 100 less homes than we had the previous year. But our gross volume sales grew over 50 million. We're also blessed to be in an industry where we are paid on a commission, right? So it's kind of a hedge against inflation in itself. But what are some of the things that you've done to adjust to this insane low inventory in the market that we've never really seen before?
Well, for me, I'm in a different boat, right? So I've been kind of passively, working my real estate business as a single agent while I'm building this coaching business and I'm building organization. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And so I've kind of been in this since 2017. I've been very passive. Like I did what I just said, right? I built my business up to $1 million in 2017. And then I cut that prospecting switch off and spent the time I used to prospect building other businesses and just kind of passively made that $1 million every year. And so last year, right, I was down. I think I want to say I was in the 85 deal year, 85 deals last year, which was low, right? That was the first year since 2014. I didn't close 100 deals, but there again, my volume was like 45 mil, which was the highest I have done. Because of that. So I made the most money, but, did the least amount of deals in the last 8 years. But now I'm transitioning to the team. So like with the team, what we're doing, right? Like now I'm to the point where we're combining me and my father's business, right? Where a team is going to take that residential business over, me and dad step back and get into more business development side of things. And with the team, right? So I quit prospecting. I'm building my business passively. So now I was going to throw my real estate business away. You know what I'm saying? And so the team, I'm like, okay, well, hey, if we're going to do this, let me come in here and actually build this thing up and actually grow this thing to 100 million, right? To 150 to 200 million. So now I'm back in growth mode. So we got ISAs that just started, I'm back doing direct mail. We've got guys, cold calling, we've got people going on listing appointments where, I'm kind of going back to the basics here with what I did all coming up to build my business as I was trying to grow the business, and then went passive for a minute. Now I'm back to growing. I'm just doing it through the team. So we're going back to direct mail. We're going back to Facebook ads, really remarketing to our client database, which is, 30,000 if you combine me and my father's. We're calling all those past clients and people in our database, and we're cold calling. We're doing expires, circle prospecting. We're calling every time we get a listing, we call the entire subdivision or complex, right? We're pounding them with mail. We're blitzing, right? And a lot of that has to do with the temperament of the market and the shift of the market here over the last year, and the lower transactions, hey, yeah, the volume was higher, but hey, I don't like that transaction number. You know what I mean? So I don't care that I made more money. I want to get out there and sell more properties. I want to have more transactions. So yeah, that's what we're doing differently. I'm going back to the basics and saying, hey, yeah, this market's tough, but let's get back to the basics and really blitz, and really get in there and try to get our hands dirty to shake the trees a little bit, because honestly, I'm in a really good spot market wise, because, we do mostly second home, vacation, beach, condos, and properties. And so none of these people live in these properties, right? So, these are investment properties that people can take their profit off the table without really affecting their living arrangements. Like a lot of markets, there's first home, their primary home markets where if they sell, they got to figure out somewhere else to move to. Not here. These are second homes and vacation properties and so if I were in like a more primary home market, I would be more focused right now on the investment properties, your absentee owner properties, your commercial properties, your multifamily and stuff like that. I would be gung ho there because the prices have escalated so high. And a lot of these investors are probably looking at it saying, at some point, I'm going to take some money off the table here. You know what I mean? So there's got to be somebody. You think about how, these multiple offers and properties that go for more than, 100,000 over asking price and stuff like that. You got to say to yourself, as you have this buyer who is dying to be in this subdivision, you got to say to yourself, there's got to be a seller in there that's ready to, to sell, to make a, $200,000-$300,000 today, and that's what I kept saying to myself back in 2003 and 4, when the market did something similar. It's way worse this time, but back then it was very similar. And I would call a building and I would find someone who wanted to make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 today. Right. So I think I think a lot of these agents are like dealing directly with the buyers, and they're not even trying to go after listings. They're just like dealing with buyers and then making multiple offers and missing out on 3 of them. and just complaining about it without realizing they've only done half their job, right? Your job as an agent is to help connect buyers and sellers, right? And if you only have the buyer, right, and you're not doing anything to go out there and try to find a seller to connect them with, then you're basically quitting halfway through your job, right? If you have a buyer and you've lost out on 3 offers, you should be doing nothing 8 hours a day, but trying to find a seller to connect that buyer with, right? To do your client as the buyer the best service possible. And there's a seller out there that's probably willing to sell if you get your hands dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I'm in a market that's kind of opposite of yours, where it's driven by, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's insane amounts of institutional investors and so forth buying up, but I mean, it's, people live here and they work here. I mean, there's some second home market, retirees and so forth, but the primary market is, those buying and selling. But something I'm constantly talking with my agents about is, look, this is where you have to pivot and shift your ideal client throughout your career. It's okay. 2005, 2006, traditional business. 2007, I started seeing the market shift and we started seeing more short sales, more REOs. Well, I had to shift and pivot my ideal client to short sales REOs. 2011, 2012, sorry, my throat's going in and out on me. But 2011, we started seeing all these, Blackstones of the world come in and swarm up all this property. So I had to pivot my business there. 2013, it started fully correcting, going back to a traditional market and pivot there. And, I was meeting with an agent the other day on my team. Well, actually, this was months ago, but we were breaking out our ideal client, and she starts telling me, well, your first time buyers, that price point was like $200,000 to $300,000. I'm like, look, I don't care how good you are at this and how many leads you generate. That buyer, you can't help that buyer in this market. So you're going to be chasing something, no matter how good you are at it. Of now you're trying to help and serve somebody that you can't help in this market. There's nothing under $500,000 in our market, at this point. So, it's making that pivot and that adjustment, understanding, okay, well, our market is the upper middle class and the affluent and institutional investors, and looking at it that way. And we can't do business how we did a year ago or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and expect the same result, man. We got to pivot, we got to shift, and we got to adapt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's per market. You got a different thing going on there. Every market, listen, you got to network with the other agents. You got to find out who those top agents are and network with them, talk to them, see what's going on, see what their thoughts are, see what they're doing. Some of them won't share with you, but some of them will. A lot of them are scared to reach out to those top producers and stuff like that. But I think that's a tip right there, in your market, get close to a couple of higher producer agents, and kind of, and brokers, and try to stay in the know of these kind of things to kind of see where you need to pivot. The same thing in 2008, when I got back in, there were tons of foreclosures. So I helped buyers buy those foreclosures because there was a lot of foreclosure agents and they would never answer their phone. Everybody was envious because they were getting all the foreclosure deals from the banks. And I was like, I'll go represent the buyers. And as the market rebounds, these buyers will turn into sellers. They'll go reinvest after they sell. They'll refer me 3 or 4 people, and these foreclosure agents will be gone. Another thing I got into was short sales. I did about 50 short sales, over the course of 3 or 4 years during that time. Dude, I made a killing off that, and I learned that skill of short sales. Like I'm really good at the short sale process and getting those deals done. And then, like you said, it kind of moved into more of a traditional market there for a while until 2017, right? when Trump came in and things started to change, and and now we've got a different president, and things are always kind of moving around and everything. Now you've got the pandemic, and now you've got interest rates. So things are always changing around. But the thing is, the great thing about it is that there's always an opportunity. And you talk about perspective. One thing that I preach so loud is that regardless of anything, right, your entire life up to this point, there's not one single day where there were not tons of closings, right? Not a single day through all the scariest moments in the economy, 9/11, pandemic, dot-com crash, 2008. There may be a fluctuation of lesser transactions or more transactions, but they're always way more than you can handle at every given time. So you can kind of rest assured that even through the scariest moments of the history, that there were closings happening every day. There's going to be closings happening every day moving forward. Right. And so, and the number of closings are going to fluctuate, but you have to make your mark, which means make a dent. Whatever agent has the most real relationships, right, the highest percentage of real relationships with people in their market is the number one agent, right, in the market.
Yep. Yeah. Couldn't agree more, dude. And something that we always abide by a team and just live and die by is there's no such thing as a good market. It's always good for somebody. It's our job to identify whom it's good for and then pivot, because as you said, man, real estate's always been trading hands, always has been, always will be. Unless
a good way to figure it out. A good way to figure it out is to listen to your clients.
Yeah.
Right. Listen to your clients. What do they need? What are they trying to do? Listen to your clients, and the only way to do that is what? By talking to people. That's a problem right there. Most agents won't get out there and talk to the amount of people they need to build the kind of business they want.
Yeah. What's your pulse on the overall market? It's, I know, man, this is such a loaded question and can be hard to answer, but I'm sure you're getting clients that ask about it. I'm getting asked about it with, agents on a daily basis of, what's your best guess of, how long is this thing going to last? Where do you feel it's going to go? What do you, I know none of us have a crystal ball, but.
Honestly, the way I see it playing out is that I think interest rates are going to have an impact. I don't think it's going to crash the market. I think it's just going to kind of level the market out. I don't see how prices could continue the way they are, going up. They're still going up. We're still selling things for more money right now. So things are definitely still moving up. I think it's going to level out. It may even drop 1% or something like that. I think we're going to see a leveling of price eventually this year at some point. And I think inventory is going to continue to be tight. I don't see an end of the lack of inventory, which is going to continue to make things tough. Now, the interest rates coming up, I think will lower demand a little, right? It's not going to lower demand enough to combat the low supply, right? And the interest rates coming up, right? Demand is going to outpace that for a minute. Right. But I think it's going to catch up to it and prices will level out. I don't know. I just, the inventory problem is the thing that I can't figure out. I just can't wrap my head around, what's going to happen there in terms of inventory. But I can tell you, there's a lot of houses that exist, right? It's just a matter of sellers, the market being in a position that makes sense for sellers to place their home on the market. And I just don't see it because interest rates coming up, right? They're not going to want to sell to buy unless prices dramatically drop. It's such a weird triangle that we're in right now. We've backed ourselves into this corner that's just a really strange place where it's really hard to predict. You tell me, like, is this not the most unpredictable, next 2 years that we've ever seen?
Yeah, dude, it's gnarly. And I think I've got a decent pulse on it, but it's taken about a year of more research than I've ever done in my life to try to identify it. But to your point with interest rates, we've seen interest rates from the beginning of the year to now today, increase 1.65%, which is 16.5% loss of purchase power from the average, average purchaser. Percent is usually about 10%. It's not perfect math, but so in my market, a $500,000 house, somebody bought that in January 1st. Today, they'd have to buy like a $430,000 house for equal payment. But we haven't seen that reduce the competitiveness in the market, and interest rates are going to go up. Dude, even today, sub 5% money is fucking cheap money, right? So I think it really relies on what's going to happen with these institutions. I just heard about this company earlier today called Arrived. So Arrived is funded by Jeff Bezos. He teamed up with the ex-CEO of Zillow, the ex-CEO of Uber. And they're going out there and acquiring insane amounts of property. Just another BlackRock and Blackstone of the world, but really creating this. If you look at where global leaders are taking most established countries, if you will, into this, World Economic Forum, I know has their commercial of you own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, we're becoming more and more of a renter society. And this is a unique model, dude. This Arrived. I'm just using this as an example, but there's a lot of brilliant minds out there that have deep pockets that are coming up with these different models that not only will you rent the property, but let's just say a light bulb goes out on that property, right? Like with Amazon, man, you got food, you got all these other deliveries where everything attached to that property now can be taken care of for you and serviced through those. Now, what's cool about Arrived is, at least that appears to be cool at this moment, is they've opened this up. They're going out there and acquiring all these properties, but then they're taking it public where guys like you and I or anybody can go out there and invest, $10 a share, whatever it may be, and you can pick the property that you're going to invest in. and share on that upside of that property. And then when they sell, you get to, split the profits based on the shares that you own per property. So there's a ton of that, man. You got like blockpower.io that I just discovered too about a week or two ago, which is a Jeff Bezos fund, Microsoft, Goldman Sachs, and about a half dozen other deep pocket investors in that they have a plan of buying 120 million units in North America, which is only 140 million single family here in the United States. But when they're talking like a 300 apartment building would be 300 units, to put some perspective there. But they're turning all of these into smart green properties and then leasing them back. So, and whether that be that these institutions, your BlackRocks or Blackstones of the world and so forth, are swallowing up so much insane property because it's a great hedge against inflation, or maybe they just realize that, hey, dude, we're going to have a huge rooftop shortage for decades and decades, generations to come, and they can afford to play that long game. But I think what will, because for a long time now, HUD has been anything that hits a foreclosure REO, they package up and sell right off to Blackstone and BlackRock. And if you look at, okay, well, who are the majority shareholders in your Fannie Mae's, your Freddie Mac's, dude, it's all the same conglomerates, right? So same thing with Zillow liquidating those assets. Who do they go to, right? It's there was other funds owned by the main shareholders in Zillow. So it was just a way to potentially subsidize insane amounts of debt and wipe that off their balance sheet. But once we enter recessionary territory, historically, hedge funds and money managers out there will start liquidating their balance sheet. So I think that will be are they going to continue to accelerate this? Or do they start liquidating these properties? Because right now, even if we start seeing, I think more foreclosures and short sales is inevitable, just because of the rise of cost of living. And now with this war, I mean, this isn't a quicker fix like maybe the supply shutdown because of COVID. With the damage that had already been done between Ukraine and Russia's war, I mean, this is a 10-year problem already. And that's if this doesn't continue longer down. So every element of life is going to continue getting more and more expensive. So inflation, at some point, people are going to make that decision of shit. Do I put food on the table for my kids, or do I make my house payment? It's inevitable for that to start hitting, but then we'll just have to see, are these going to be available to the consumer, or are they just going to get repackaged, these institutions? So, that's kind of the one variable that makes me have no idea. But to your point, and this is like Redfin's prediction too, that we will get to a leveling off period where we'll see, 3% appreciation over time. So let's just say that's where we get to for the next decade. Well, let's just say, 3% appreciation, home appreciation for the next decade. But then if we have CPI inflation at 8%, like it was last year, so they're both going up. But if inflation is 5% year over year higher and outpaces appreciation, you can have a 50% real estate market correction during that same time. So that's a very viable option too. I mean, we just might have another repeat of the 70s and early 80s too.
Right. And I can see that happening. But back to the foreclosures and short sales and stuff, right? What we saw during the pandemic with the forbearances and everything, right? When the government came out and basically put that in place, to me, what that showed me was that, hey, when 2008 happened, right, and Lehman Brothers went down and we had to bail the banks out for trillions of dollars, we don't want to go through that again, right? And I kind of have this sense that when we do get in that recessionary, territory and we do start to see, people becoming delinquent and stuff like that, I kind of feel like the government is going to put stuff in place to prevent like a big foreclosure wave, because they don't want to have to turn around and do the same thing they did in 2008. It kind of makes me wonder, right, if we'll ever see that big wave of foreclosures, because I buy foreclosures. That's my favorite thing to do. Right. And when the pandemic happened, I was like, I hate it. I hate that this is happening, to society and stuff. But when the government came out with that, it basically shut that business down. There were zero foreclosures. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, but the Blackstones and this new company Arrive and stuff like that, geniuses. Right. I mean, Blackstone has to be one of the most, incredibly happiest companies out there to be sitting on all the properties they've got right now with what's happened with property values. And you're right. That really does come down to what's going to happen with those properties and these large institutions and what they have. Again, there's just so much uncertainty in terms of the big picture over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years with how this whole thing's going to play out. All I can really see is over the next, the rest of this year, I think we're going to see a leveling of the prices. And, we're kind of like a sit and wait to see how inventory is going to play out. If I had to guess, I would think that, we've got millennials coming up. They're the largest generation. They're coming into their real buying, years, that's another issue here. I think you got one of the largest, generations ready to go out and get a house, start a family, that's going to add to the problem. So, if this is a new world we're in, dude, I am like all in, loving it, ready. I like stuff when it's hard. You know what I'm saying? This is what I live for. Moments like this when it's tough. So, I say bring it on.
Yeah, no, and all the things that I share, on this podcast, and like some of my teammates will be like, we'll leave a meeting and they'll be like, oh, dude, I'm scared now. I'm like, don't be scared. Like, be excited. Like, but it's important to have awareness. Now, I have no idea how this is going to play out. I just go out there and study. Okay, what are all the viable theories that with the dots connected in the right way make sense of the different possibilities. Now, I don't know which way it's going to go. And I really, to be honest with you, from a business perspective, I don't give a shit. And what I mean by that is, look, you play the cards that you're dealt. You can have an opinion about it, but your opinion isn't going to share and, save anything. Like, so what are the cards that I'm dealt? And then based on that, how do I still go out there and win and make my goals a reality? So it's going to be what it's going to be. And those that are truly committed to their success are going to go out there and crush it and dominate. And, there's going to be massive opportunities ahead. Those that can't adapt and shift are going to get crushed, in this industry. My biggest fear is that this does continue. And why that's a fear of mine is because I have young kids, and you already look at what the first time average buyer right now and throughout the United States is in their mid 30s. Like, I don't think this is healthy for a country overall, the wealth gap that we're seeing and so forth, but again, I can't control any of that other than just if the gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger on a daily basis of the haves and have nots. And right now we're amongst the biggest transfer of wealth in human history. Right. So, and it's just going to continue to exacerbate and get bigger between the haves and the have nots. You just got to pick and choose, what side do I want to be on? Do I want to be the have or the have not? And then go out there and put in the work to do so, so it's like, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to be fine there. But it does make me nervous for, people that don't adapt or they're trying to live life. So like one of my good friends, he's way up at a Fortune 500 company, engineer, just this brilliant mind. And he just got a new promotion to a new job, which is all around how do we, because this is just to protect his identity. I'm not going to talk about who the company is and so forth, but he's like, look, we don't want to replace these human beings with robots, but they're not adapting to the skill sets that we need. So his whole job now is, even before college level, like, how do we teach people and give them the right trainings to adapt to the modern day era? My daughter's talking, she's 13 and she's talking about going to college the other day. And I'm like, why even thinking about that? Why? Like, because at school they're thinking about careers. I'm like, dude, the careers that are available now won't even fucking exist, in the whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, before she enters the job market. I'm like, just go and be a kid, right? And, figure that out when that time's right. But, and I'm not, there's obviously things that we're doing to prepare them, but, just preparing them for that adaptability. And this leads me to a video that I was watching of yours that actually prompted me to reach out to get back on the podcast. Was you were talking about your prediction of us seeing a drop off of agents, right? So what would you say to that of, why you believe that to be true? And then for those that hear that, what's your advice to them to make sure that they're not the statistic of the dropping out?
Yeah, no, like I was saying earlier, I think there's probably about 400,000 real agents out there, right? When we got a number of 1.6 that's with NAR. And so there's just a huge gap there between the haves and the have-nots, people that are actually selling and people that just got their license, right? And there's been a huge surge from the pandemic, right? People want to, they don't want to, deal with, working for other people. All the stuff we talked about, freedom. They don't want to have to worry about getting laid off like they did when the pandemic happened and stuff like that. They want to be able to kind of rule their own destiny and everything. So they go out and get their real estate license because it's a real low barrier of entry. So they go out there and get their real estate license, and then they're really thrown into this market where they thought it was going to be kind of easy because they see all these agents out there posting on their new listings and everything. To come to find out, it's probably one of the hardest things they've ever done. And so I think honestly, one of the biggest reasons that we're going to see a big market drop off in terms of number of agents is literally going to be the fact that we see so many agents who got their license a year ago, let's say, right? And now we're fixing to see a lot of renewals, right? And the renewals are going to come up. I mean, I talked to a couple agents like here in the past week, coincidentally, after that video. I don't even know if they saw the video, but they were basically telling me I'm probably going to have to let my license go because I got to pay $1,000 for the renewal, and I got to do this, I got to do that, and I got to pay all this stuff, and I haven't sold anything. I'm just wondering what I should do. I think we're going to see a big drop off just because of the lack of activity of agents, and you just can't continue paying for licenses and doing continuing education and all the things you have to do in order to be a real estate agent. You just can't continue paying all that, without selling anything. I tell everybody, if you're not selling, if you have your license and you're not selling, it's hell on earth, right? But if you're selling, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. It could be the worst thing or the best thing, depending on, how active you are. But I think that's what we're going to see. I think also, with interest rates coming up, and inventory could continue to stay where it is, we could see a decrease in transactions. I think it was, Market Watch had an article that said that we should see 25% drop in transactions by the end of the summer. Okay, so 25% drop in transactions. So this is a prediction, like Zillow predicted, like the last year for prices increased, like I forget what it was, like 4 or 5%. It was up like 17, 18, 19, 20%. This year they're calling for an increase of 17%. It's like, how do we, we're not going to believe you on any of this stuff and all these predictions, they're just predictions, right? But they are coming from, well-educated people who look at the market from a different perspective than your normal person. And, I can see it with interest rates coming up and inventory staying like it is. If interest rates come up enough, I can definitely see a lack of transactions. So when you come listen, a 25% drop in transactions, that's a crash. That's a crash of transactions. Okay. Prices may level out, but less transactions and already a tough market with low inventory. And now it's going to get even tougher with less transactions, with the highest amount of agents we've ever had, with a lot of renewals coming up. I think it's just a perfect storm where, we're going to lose. Now, I was talking to Tim Harris, one of my good friends, and he said, yeah, I think we're going to lose a lot of agents, but I believe that the new agents coming in are going to outpace the agents going out. So he still thinks we'll see a net positive increase in agents this year. He agrees that we'll have more that drop off ever, but he also thinks we've got so many agents still coming into the business just because of the prices and this, that, and the other. So again, I think it's going to be interesting to sit back and watch how that whole thing plays out. But listen, it comes back to what I talked about in the very beginning, guys. If you go out there and just make it a goal every day to create 5 new friends a day, listen to what it does for your business. You're going to run into people that want to do deals today. You're going to run into people that want to do business with you later, right? You put everybody in your database. You do a weekly email, social media, direct mail, whatever it is you do to stay in touch with people, bulk texting, whatever your thing is, make it personable. Right? Share your opinions on stuff. Don't just send them market information and say, here's what sold. Say, here's what sold and here's what I think about it. Here's a property that went under contract. And, here's what a couple that I was showing houses to said, the other day that I thought was interesting. Here's a restaurant. I went there and ate and I loved this and you guys should try that. Give them some of your personality and your personal experiences. That's what wins when you start remarketing to these people once you make that great first impression. But it's not super difficult, right? It's just a lot of work and a lot of consistency, but the winners are going to pull it off.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that excites the hell out of me right now is with this whole great resignation, it doesn't mean that people are retiring per se. They're just not filling those jobs and the big business world. And we've seen here lately, man, the amount of talent that is jumping into and getting their license and coming in the industry is something like I've never seen before. I mean, principals from school districts and people with master's degrees and for our team, I've always loved new agents. I'll take a new agent over a seasoned agent all day long because they're excited and they don't have bad habits, and they take instructions. They listen, they're eager, right? And it's like, dude, I can take a new agent and within, 12 to 18 months, like get them producing 15 to 20 million a year. And I'll do that all day long versus, trying to go out there and find somebody doing 10 million a year that never fucking listens to a word I say.
Yep.
Right. But dude, the amount of talent coming in is insane. And for those of you team leaders and broker owners, man, now's the time to take advantage of that. Cause it's coming awesome. It's becoming awesome, dude. And, when you and I first got in the business, it was like, dude, you could just hustle your ass off and take, great care of your clients and be a top producer. Now today, that's just like the ante to be in the game. It's like, you got to also be a great operator, and so forth. So yeah, I mean, the game has changed, and I agree. It'll be interesting. I don't know what that final number will be. I know in my market for a couple of years now, we've seen record rates of lack of renewals coming in. And for a time, this is about last time you and I talked, we were actually seeing a record overall of drop-offs of net gain or net loss of agents. And, that may have changed, since, but it's going to, again, be more opportunities for those that are willing to put in the work, that are truly committed. And again, committed to being a great operator, man. Like you got, as you talked about in the beginning of this, man, you got to know how to apply the right systems to your business, how to not get distracted and track your numbers and know what works. And just like great operators do. One thing that I'm curious about, dude, is because you're a dude, like when I think of you, I think of somebody that's consistent as fuck, right? So can you walk us through it? Because it seems like a lot of people can do the work for a period of time and then they drop off with that. Well, you're a guy that just year after year, man, like you're like a robot, consistent. Like, speak to that, man. What are some of the things that work well for you? Because I'm sure not every day you wake up just excited to do some of the tasks that you got to do each day.
Honestly, man, the way I look at it is time's going to go by regardless, right? 5 years is going to go by no matter what. If I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this, dude, it's kind of strange, man. It's kind of hard to explain, actually. Like, it's just like something's in front of me, right? There's an obstacle. There's my day. Here's my schedule. Maybe I'm roofing a house. Or I used to cook in a restaurant. Whatever it was just like, I just did it. Right. And then when it's over with, it's like, okay, I did it. And the next day it's just the same thing. Right. It's this feeling, honestly, that's really hard to explain, that I just do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know any other way to do anything. Like, I don't know other way to live rather than to just do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people are like, I did this and I did that. Well, congratulations. You know what I mean? You're supposed to do those kind of things, I don't know. I just think I was kind of built, again, it goes back to that, some of the principles in that book, Outliers. I think I was just kind of conditioned and kind of built to do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? No matter what, I'm going to get the job done. I'm going to do this thing. Right. And I'm always looking for opportunities. I'm always looking for better ways to do things. I'm always looking to adapt. I'm always looking for, something else to save time or to be better. I'm always tweaking what I'm doing. I'm always tweaking my diet, tweaking my workout, tweaking my, my prospecting, my scripts, and everything to do with my life, how to be a better father and, be a better investor. I'm always looking for that edge and that advantage, but I always lean back on work ethic. Right. And I don't know. I can't say it's something you're born with. If you don't have it, it's not like I don't think you can't develop it, but there's got to be a sense of, that you were born with something in you that just makes you tick and just makes you do it until it's done, or until you die. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do until I die, whatever that is. I don't know. It's like I say, it's hard to put into words when you talk about consistency and going through the motions, because it's not always going through the motions, right? A lot of times there's a lot of excitement and intentions behind what I'm doing. And then there's times where it is kind of going through the motions, right? So you kind of go through those ebbs and flows. And a lot of people don't see that on the outside. They don't realize that, oh, this one day when he was posting all this and doing all that and saying all this, that he might have been just kind of floating and going through the motions. There are those times. So don't think that, a lot of these people that are super consistent are just literally robots who just, they're just doing it, and they don't feel the same kind of human emotions of maybe I could, I'm tired today, or maybe I'll give up or something like that, because I do feel like that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't care about those emotions, right? I got a job I have to do. I got a family I got to take care of. I have goals, I have dreams, I have desires, and I'm just not going to stop until I hit certain milestones.
Yeah, I love it. And to me, it all makes perfect sense. And the only reason I say that is I've been, spending a lot of time lately really understanding from a biological perspective of how the brain works, from a neuroscience, I guess, stance of dopamine. And dopamine is the drug that is associated with how you feel in this moment, how you're going to feel from an hour from now. It's, everything to do with motivation, drive, all of those things. And how the brain is wired is, and this is thousands, if not millennia of programming. And it's weird there. It's odd that it's programmed the same way in all animals, all mammals. I mean, all the way down to lizards. That's maybe where, we get told the lizard brain, we hear that terminology. But it's again, how our brains were wired for that. So let's just say back in the day, we needed to find a water source. Okay. So you see this mud puddle, right? Boom, dopamine hit. So then you see the next water puddle, right? And then you get another dopamine hit. Then you get the next one. Then you get to the water source. Well, when you actually get to that water source itself, the brain naturally doesn't do that dopamine spike, right? But it does on the pathway there. So then it's a reminder of how I got there, right? And our dopamine, you have this baseline. And then when you do certain activities, it spikes up, but then it doesn't come back down to baseline. It goes below baseline intentionally to make us feel like shit, to go out there and get that thing. Well, now in modern life, when we have everything so good and we're so overstimulated, it's almost impossible to be a baseline. So either you feel good on this high or you feel like shit. Feel good on this high. Yeah. But one thing that comes to that, where I'm bringing this full circle, is there's been a lot of evidence and studies to not celebrate the win, but instead focus on the daily progress. And from everything that you did, but that keeps that dopamine in the brain consistent in that healthy levels, right? Which it sounds like you've in your own way found that just that the daily process, the daily, like, hey, here's the shit that I need to do each and every day. And I'm going to focus on those things versus, okay, at the end of the year, you hit your goal, you go out there and do this big celebration. Well, then what's next? Right. So you're attaching the process, detaching from the outcome, which is the way the brain's supposed to function. But most people do the opposite and it just fucks them up.
Honestly, it's, I'm always focused like 2-3 years ahead. Like I'm always thinking about, like, honestly, every day, all day long, when I'm working and I'm doing my thing, I'm thinking about what this activity is doing for me 3 years out from now. Like I'm never really thinking about like what's happening right now or what kind of results I'm going to get this year. It's always out there. I think that's probably a good thing to say here on the podcast is that, since I'm so focused long-term, right, it makes it to where, like the mountain is so large, right? And if I even let up for a second, I'm just going to backtrack so much, right? It's going to put me so far off track of actually hitting this massive goal, over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I think that's probably another big secret of just the consistency, is that the goals I've got over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years are so massive that, if I let up at all, then it could completely demolish any chances of hitting these goals, right? So I think that's probably a big part of it as well.
How do you, because you're this dude that not only has big goals, but you've been you've done a great job at accomplishing the goals that you've set. So this isn't just like, you have these goals, but you've also accomplished previously, like, you know what I mean? It's not like you're just delusional in your mind with this stuff.
Right.
So you've got a great track record, I should say. But then, dude, you also, now I haven't been to your house. I haven't hung out with you. This is from, we spent a lot of time hanging out online, but from an outsider looking in, it also appears that you also make that room in that time to invest that time with the family, to go out there and enjoy life and have fun. I mean, I always see out there surfing and all that shit, plus being very intentional, taking care of your health. I was talking to somebody the other day that their father-in-law is a psychiatrist. And he's like, dude, my father-in-law is just the happiest guy I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, what is it? Right? He's a psychiatrist. He knows the brain. But I'm like, what is that thing? If you had to boil it down to those things, he's like, dude, he always figures out how to have fun in life. Like he just, like he finds the fun in things and he makes room for fun, number one, how do you make sure that you don't get too consumed by those big 2-3 year goals where you drop that ball with, your kids or, those other things. But then the second component of that too is, how do you think that contributes to your success by also taking those time to enjoy life and not just being so damn consumed with work?
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good. And it's a work in progress, and it has been, and I have gotten really good at it. I think part of the big 5-year goals is, when I'm thinking about my businesses and I'm thinking about everything that is on track to happen and how massive everything is, also part of that, when I think 5 years out, I think about the fact that she's going to be 7. Right. And so here's the businesses, right, in 5 years for me, as I'm looking at them in a vision with my daughter standing right next to them. Like, she's part of that. You see what I'm saying? And like the way that she is the way that we try to prepare her and condition her and love her and show her, the way through life and everything is such a big part of what I do. What, like just the time that I spend with her, I know that it just goes so far. So at 5 o'clock, bro, I just shut down. Like I don't care what is going on. There could be a rare instance that something's happened and I kind of take care of it real quick, or maybe I have a call at 5:30, like once every 3 months or something like that. But very consistently at 5 o'clock, I completely shut my mind off of work altogether, because honestly, I could quit working right now. That's another thing that I come back to when 5 o'clock hits, that I could retire, right? And I don't have to do any of this stuff. Right. And so if I work all day and I spend 8 hours away from my family, then I at least owe it to them to shut down at 5 o'clock when I don't even have to work at all. Right. To spend time with them. Right. And to sit down and hear their day and talk to them and laugh and all that good stuff. So that's a big, huge, huge, huge thing for me. And if I don't have that, then there's going to be a problem. Like I'm not a happy guy. You know what I mean? I'm kind of addicted to that. Let's just say. Like when 5 o'clock happens, like boom, like I'm ready to sit down and play and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it is on the weekends. I try to take off as much as possible. I rarely have any work stuff going on the weekends. I try to dedicate everything to them. And that's a big part of my success, like you say, because the work part during the 8 hours, 5 days a week is really dedicated to just creating a better life for us. You know what I mean? So it all plays together, but you can't let the work, you can't let the work control you to the point where you lose your family. I've seen that time and time again, and it's just, I look at those situations and I think, God, man, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? It makes me wonder like what's really going on behind the scenes and stuff. But, I don't wish that on anybody, especially if if you're in a situation where, I'm sure there's situations where, you want to get out of whatever that is, and stuff. But like, I love my family to death. Like I want to be right there. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge part of it and people need to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And, for those that might be watching and listening, might be like, oh, that must be nice.
Yeah.
Look, it's attainable for anybody. We just got to go out there and be willing to, you put in a lot of work and a lot of years to get you to this position, and it's just like, I made this decision to we're going to buy a farm this summer and I'm going to personally start homeschooling my kids. And, so that only allows me where I'm only going to have like 15 hours a week to work and so forth, but I spent, fucking 17, 18 years in this business, building the foundation that allows for those things. So, things don't always come easy, but if you're willing to go out there and sometimes you got to live like nobody else for a brief period of time. So then you can live the rest of your life like nobody else is able to live.
Dude, I did that, right? I worked 15 hours a day for 15 years. Right. And I didn't have a family at the time, fortunately. Right. If I would have had a family during that time, then I don't know. Right. I don't know. But I was fortunate enough, man. I can say that I'm a lucky
person,
man, to be born in 1981, go through what I went through, not have kids until I actually had a nice foundation business wise, where I could afford to, to get us the house we like, to work at home, to take off at 5 o'clock, trust me, when they say it must be nice, I agree. It is nice and it must be nice. And I'm a lucky person. Right. But like you say, It comes from the hard work and really visualizing. I visualize this stuff. I have to be chasing something big all the time. So when I got into real estate, like my main thing was I want to make $1 million a year, right? Nobody in my family ever made $1 million a year, right? This was massive to me, right? So everything was focused on that one goal, right? When I hit that goal, I literally that year quit building my real estate business because here's the dopamine, right? I got there and it wasn't the thing, right? I immediately started coaching because I thought I want to make a huge impact in the world, right? Help reduce the failure rate, help other agents. That was big to me, right? So I'm always chasing something big, something bigger and bigger and bigger. Some people say, oh, you're always going to want to do that. No, I'm not. There's going to be a time where I say, I'm good, and I'm going to enjoy the last, 30, 40 years. So, nah, man, I love it.
So what would you talk about working 15 hours a day, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure knowing what you know now, you could if you had to start from scratch, you could rebuild this thing a hell of a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do looking back now for those that are like, dude, I want to have a lifestyle similar to yours, but I can't do 15 years of 15 hours a day. Like, what would you do to compress that and make it quicker? So you could do it maybe in 5 years instead of 15.
Well, honestly, I didn't have a Ricky. I didn't have a Joshua. I didn't have these online mentors really kind of showing me everything that they did to get where they are. Right. So that's number one, right? I would really find one or two, influencers in the real estate industry that I really relate to, that's done the things that I want to achieve. And I would really go deep into their content and really get inside their minds, right? To really figure it out, because that's what's going to really put you ahead, because these guys have been through it. Right. And they know the mistakes they made. Going back to when we were first talking about being a real estate agent in this era where you have the technology where, listen, the 15 hours I did can be compressed into an hour and a half, right? You can do things 10 times faster, because I was literally from 5 to 11 looking up numbers. Now you can just go and get thousands of numbers, right? So there goes 5 hours right there. Then I was hand dialing, from 8 to 3. You can just go click, dial, and auto dial, right? 100 numbers right there in an hour and a half. You can literally do a Ricky day, what took me 15 hours, in an hour and a half now. You can do a Ricky day in 2003, 2004, 2008, 2009, 2010. You can do what Ricky did in an hour and a half and still have 6.5, 7, 4.5, 5.5 hours to crush it, to continue crushing it, right? And be so far light years ahead of me. And I wasn't using social media. Like, you could spend an hour a day on social media, just really engaging, commenting, liking on other people's stuff, DMing people, creating great content. I mean, that wasn't around when I was here, right? So taking advantage of these technologies and opportunities. And I think that a lot of people are not making calls, right? A lot of people are not making calls. And I don't care who you're calling. If you get Zillow leads or Facebook leads or door knocking or whatever, you're trying to develop a database of people, and you need to be calling them, right? You need to be developing the relationships and seeing what it is they're thinking. What are they looking to do? When are they looking to do it? Why are they looking to do it? And really developing the relationships at scale. And you need to be, whatever your system is, create 5 new friends a day. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me to remarket to people I talk to. I didn't collect data until I got back in the business in 2008. I wish I'd collected data from day one and did it all the right way. So I think data collection, 5 people a day into your database, remarket, make it very personable and original content, right? And be very consistent, right? And think about that 5-year goal of hitting 6,000 people organically in your database. Not that you bought, that there's probably fictitious emails, but actual people you talked to that gave you their data that you had that connection with, right? And this is the sweat equity part. See, it's such a sweat equity business. You can't buy your way into the business. I've seen a lot of agents come into my market and try to spend a lot of money on marketing to try to just be number one real quickly. Doesn't happen, because even when you do all that marketing and you get leads, you still got to have somebody there that actually talks to them to develop the relationships, put them in the database, remarket to them at that point. There's a lot of you can't get around the sweat equity part of the business, right? And I think that's what a lot of agents are trying to sidestep, is that hard 3 to 5 years of just pounding away, really grinding their face off, but that's what it takes.
So for those agents, because I want to ask this because you've also coached 50,000 agents, just some absurd number, dude. So with those that have resistance to doing the calls, I mean, what do you think is the biggest driver behind that? And what are ways that you can, because I got to imagine just by the perspective that you have, because the common thing I hear from agents, now I'm not a dialer like you've been. I mean, I've always been inbound, which, dude, the phone is still like,
yeah,
appointments get set.
You still got to call them,
right? But I've never been like just a phone prospecting based style business. But dude, it's a point. Even to this day, we have always video funnels. It's like, dude, appointments still get set on the phone. So there's always that phone element,
right? That's what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter where you get your leads from. Yep. You got to call them. You got to talk to them. You got to communicate. You got to set the appointments. You got to get the deals done.
But do people, I mean, so many people have resistance to the phone, and I chalk this up to, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. There's going to be a percentage of just fucking lazy and probably just need to get out of the business and aren't willing to do the work.
Right.
But there's also this big percentage that I hear all the time of, dude, they don't want to feel like they're salesy. They don't want to, they have this like different perspective. And I got to imagine by you just seeing this as friends versus leads, it opens up that conversation and makes it kind of removes that call reluctance of feeling like that douchey, pushy salesperson.
Yeah. I mean, when an agent tells me, I'm scared to make calls, right? I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, what are you scared of? Right. And the most common answer is, I don't know. Right. The most common, like I get it the most, I don't know. Right. So like, they don't even know what they're scared of. Right. And the second most common answer is, I'm scared to get rejected. Right. And the third most common answer is, I don't want to look dumb. Right. I don't want to get asked a question I don't necessarily know the answer to. And, there's a lot of things I can say, when it comes to call reluctance and stuff like that. But, the biggest thing for me is that you got to sit down at some point and realize that this is the only way. And when I say only way, I mean, it can be inbound off video ads. It can be Zillow. It can be just cold. It can be inbound, outbound. I don't care where they're coming from. Conversations have to be had, right? Conversation, like you've got the nucleus of a closing. Okay. You've got social media and all the prospecting avenues. Okay. But the nucleus is real conversation. All these avenues come right back to this same activity before anything else will happen. And so at some point you have to realize that this is the only way. Now you may decide that Facebook leads are what you're, what you want to do. And that's what creates those 5 new friends a day. Maybe it is cold calling or door knocking or whatever it is, but you got to figure that out. But it's going to come back to this. Your success is going to come back to your ability to communicate and connect with people on the phone. Now, you're right. With a lot of new agents come in and their brokers and their coaches have them doing these 1980s scripts, right? That really puts them in these awkward situations because it's high pressure, really trying to get the deal done kind of stuff. And it's almost like, well, if you don't want to do a deal, then I'm out of here kind of attitude. And it's not who the agent is, right? On the inside, the agent, they really care about the prospect. They really care about people. They got into this business to help people, right? But the scripts they're using it's not lining up with who they are as a person. And so that's what I try to do in my program is try to help agents line up who they are and effectively communicate who they are. Right. And so I want the prospect, right, for my agents, when they call prospects, I want that prospect to know really quickly, to get a really good feeling that this is a good person, that this person is not here to try to sell them. This person is just here to try to hear them out, right, and help them with whatever it is they want to do. And if not now, we want to stay in touch with you to help you later. Right. And so it's a 180 compared to the fear. Because a lot of the fear comes from, you said it, we're not in the sales business, right? We're in the service industry because these people have already decided when they're going to buy or sell. They've already decided what they're going to buy or sell. They already know what they want to do. They don't need us to tell them when they're going to buy or if they should buy now or what they should buy. They already have all that figured out on their own. They just need an agent to help them through the process. So you just have to start to understand these things, right? And then once you understand it and you start trying to reverse engineer yourself and you realize that friends are how you create listings and sales, It's all going to come down to how many conversations you're having, and then your skill level as it increases to create those friendships. I always tell people, listen, if you're not making calls, then you're literally basically telling your family, right, that listen, I wish that I could provide you the best life possible, but because I feel a little uncomfortable about, calling somebody. Listen, real estate, your success is probably like the whole basis of real estate is that you talk to people you don't know to help them buy and sell real estate, right? That's the whole basis of the entire job. And what you're telling me is that you're scared to do the exact thing that you got in this business to do. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. I can understand the reluctance, and I can understand, butterflies, the first time you do it and stuff like that. I can't understand that stopping you from getting the job done. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think you're right. Like some of them, they're just not cut out for this, and maybe this isn't the job for them. But the ones who are, they just need a little kick. They need a little shot in the arm, and they need a little bit of motivation and somebody to really, look at them right in the eye and say, you have to do this, right? And I think the cool thing is once you make a couple calls, you start to enjoy it. So many people that I've helped kind of get over that hump, they'll come back and tell me how addictive they are to making calls and how much business they're getting and all this and all that. Even a person with very low skill level, right? If you're making calls and having conversations, you're going to get something. The lowest of skill levels, right? And then the more your skill level increases, the more the higher the conversion rate is going to go up. I know people that suck on the phone, horrible on the phone, and they do deals because they're not scared to get out there and get on the phone. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. That's a subject right there that I understand. It's one of those catch-22s. I get it, but I just can't wrap my head around it paralyzing you.
Yeah. Love it, dude. Yeah, I have a teammate, and this guy's a savage, man. I mean, he was a rookie of the year last year. He's just a beast. And but he calls me up. This is a while ago, but he calls me up and he's like, hit me up with, how do I handle this objection? How do I handle this objection? Right? And I'm like, dude, just time out. I'm like, okay, he's got a daughter that's in college right now. I'm like, okay, pretend as if your daughter is graduated college in a couple of years. She's in a market that you can't help her. She's looking for her first home. She inquires on a lead, has a conversation with the realtor. The realtor's walking her through, helping her and so forth. What would make you proud of that realtor and glad that she got connected with that realtor? And then what would make you pissed off, based on that realtor, and so forth. I'm like, dude, just pretend as every lead's your daughter, man. Like, these lead, it's not a lead. It's a human being, somebody's daughter, right. Son, mother, when people talk about these objections, I'm like, look, people don't go to objection school. A lot of times they don't know why they're giving the objections that they're giving. The only way is you got to fully seek to understand what their true fears are, questions are, and so forth. Then from there, you might be able to educate them in a different lens, but people just have this, different, I think just the word objections, attaching that label fucks a lot of people up.
What I think what people think are objections aren't objections, right? It's your prospect telling you what they want to do.
Yeah.
Right. It's your prospect telling you what they want to do. Right. And you listen and you take that data that they're giving you based on what they want to do, and then you help them do what they want to do. Right. I don't see objections as objections. Even if they tell me, oh, they're not ready right now, or they're not going to do this, or they're not going to do that, or whatever the case may be. Even if it's, I'm going to go use another agent, they're telling me what they want to do, and I'm going to go help them do that. Right. So I think it's just a perspective thing, like they've been drilled and conditioned that they have to combat, objections. They have to, go force against force. And, like I did jujitsu for a long time, and jujitsu means the gentle art, right? And it's really taking force with force. Football, when two guys collide, the strongest guy is going to win because it's just force against force. But in jujitsu, you're taking, the smaller guy can win through technique, because you're taking the bigger guy's force and their direction and their motion, right, and using it against them. You know what I mean? And I think most of us have been conditioned, the football way with objections, and maybe because I did jujitsu for so long, I kind of have this, going with the flow of conversations and everything, to handle objections differently, because I don't even view it as objections. I view it as this person telling me what they want to do.
Yeah. 100%. So one last question for you, but before we jump into that, dude, for anybody that's watching or listening they want to learn more about, you've got awesome coaching, free coaching that you offer. Got an amazing YouTube channel. Maybe they're interested in talking to you about joining your team and whatever it may be. We're the best places to go do that. Check that out and learn more about all the amazing stuff you got going on.
Yeah. And, I don't even know if you realized it, but I actually started certifying coaches under me with Zero to Diamond. So we have 23 certified Zero to Diamond coaches that we're doing free one-on-one coaching where they get a call once a week. So we're actually doing full service one-on-one coaching now. We start a new round every quarter. We just started one here, April 1st. We had 800 applicants. We'd only take on about 120 agents because we can only take on so many. So there's huge demand for that, but we do have a 60-day challenge that you can start at any moment. That's all at zerotodiamond.com, but you guys can hit me on Instagram. I still answer every DM there every day. So I spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours every day answering DMs, from agents all over the place. And you can find a lot of the stuff, podcasts and everything else under the sun of that link in the bio for an Instagram, Ricky Carruth. And, if you guys just want to reach out and say hello or ask a question or anything I could do to help you guys, just here to help.
Yeah, dude, you blow my mind with not just your response. I mean, your response time, the amount of following that you have on Instagram. Dude, it just blows my mind how you fit the time in to do what you do, dude.
I think, it's most people have time management issues, right? Time blocking issues. And it's not a time management issue. It's a priority issue. Yeah. Right. And I just make it a priority, right? These so many agents will reach out to me with real issues, real problems, right? They need help with certain things. And, it's a thing like when I knock off at 5 and go spend with my family, same thing here. I'm like drawn to making sure that those agents, I feel like it's a duty, it's just something I just feel like I have to do. But I don't know. A lot of people call me crazy for that one too. People call me crazy for coaching for free. They call me crazy for this. They call me crazy for that. But I'm just going to keep doing my thing.
Yeah. There's some people out there that are, win on a big level, but you're not sure of their intentions and maybe
right.
Okay, this person's a bad, whatever. But, I love seeing guys like you that have big hearts that contribute at such a high level, that give back so much, and seeing your success. It's you're just coming full circle, dude. It's awesome to see.
Likewise to you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. So, you talked a lot about, big goals and how you set, 2-year goals in the future, 3-year goals, maybe 5-year goals in the future. So I'm curious, with that being said, I mean, what's exciting you right now? What do you chase? What's that next main big goal for you?
Right now, I'm really focused on building the organization, the brokerage. We want to grow to 10, 20,000 agents, 10,000 in the next 5 years or so. And also mortgage, right? We're getting into mortgage. And that's really probably the biggest money maker I see. So those are the two big home runs really for me. And then just continue to build out Zero to Diamond. We flipped Zero to Diamond to a social media platform where when you log in now, it looks like Facebook. You can post on your wall, you can create a profile, you can DM people, it's a social media platform. So we're coming out with an app for that. And when we flipped it, we had 50,000 members on the old site, right? And we flipped it, we're at like 10,000 right now. So 10,000 people actually converted over to the new site. So, and we're doing free one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. So I want to continue to develop the coaching, side of things. And because it's making a huge dent. I mean, 98.8% that go through say they enjoy being a real estate agent more. That was big. 7 out of 10 say they get more listings and close more deals. I mean, that's 70%. That's massive in my from my perspective. And so we know it's working. So we just want to continue pushing it there. And then my local team, I'm enjoying the journey of kind of messing around because that's the thing. I think a lot of people that build teams, they do it out of necessity, and this is basically their only income kind of thing. And they're building a team. This is a business I was going to throw away, and so it's fun, because now I'm just kind of piddling around with building this monster, local team and doing it the right way. So no, it's all good things. I'm just want to continue really just doing what I do every day now and just keep pushing until we hit these big goals. And then who knows, man, who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do after that. When I hit these big goals, bro, it's, it's lights out. I don't know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then those watching and listen, we'll have links below, 20 Diamond, as well as a direct link to where you can connect with Ricky on Instagram. That's the best place, right?
Yeah.
Instagram versus Facebook. So to have
Yeah.
that one. So wherever you're at, watch and listen, we'll have those links. And Ricky, man, this has been a massive honor, dude. Always amazing jamming with you, brother.
Yeah, likewise, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. And those watch and listen, we truly appreciate you guys. Appreciate you being here. Keep crushing, keep kicking ass. We'll see you next time. Peace.